World-renowned human performance expert, executive coach, best-selling author.
And I want to congratulate Ron Kardashian.
Over 12,000 hours of one-on-one coaching and mentorship.
He's a health and cognitive expert.
Known as a spiritual confidant to respected industry leaders. CEO of 3 companies.
Coach and minister Ron Kardashian.
Good friend, Coach Ron Kardashian.
Good morning, good day, everyone. I'm Tim Boyko here, head of growth at Hire Incorporated, and I have with me executive coach Ron Kardashian, which he's more than just an executive coach. He's also the founder and CEO of this amazing company, Hire Tech. And I want everyone to know how much of an expert Coach Ron is in the field, especially of our minds and our hearts and how they are aligned. He is the creator of the groundbreaking 39-trait cognitive and wellness assessment that's used in over 150 industries. For over 25 years, Coach Ron has coached executives and organizations in emotional regulation. Guess what? We know that we're missing a lot of that. There's a lot of work for us to do in the mission ahead here. And so he blends cutting-edge neuroscience with practical leadership and the wisdom that he advises both leaders and teams. He is true authority on today's topic, the great reset of the mind. Please welcome with me, Coach Ron Kardashian.
Thank you, Tim. You never cease to amaze me on your amazing intros. I so appreciate you, my brother. Let me boast about Tim for a minute. He is our EVP of growth for Hire and has 25 plus years in corporate America, and he's lost almost 100 pounds after he took the assessment. We continue to brag about him because I always point to when you're about to hire a coach or an executive advisor or anybody that's going to speak into your life, you better have some proof. There he is.
And you have way more than me. Go through his LinkedIn profile. You'll see many, I'm not talking little short sentence reviews. There are blocks of stories that people write about how his coaching has changed the trajectory of many people's lives.
Yeah. You know, and it's such an honor to do this. Cognitive wellness matters. And this is the workplace of currency. So we're going to dive into this. And I want to talk about it from a very professional angle because your mind is tired. The soul is overloaded. When I use the word soul, write this down so you get it clear, because a lot of movements have this incorrect. I'm talking deep Hebraic etymology of this word. Soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. So I want to talk about the mind and the emotions today. And because of that, it offsets rhythm. And rhythm I learned working with the NBA. The NBA, if you watch basketball right now, of course, the great Steph Curry's in my backyard here. He literally lives about 30 minutes away from me in this unbelievable home. I think he does 300 million a year now, or over a couple year period, whatever it is. It's an astronomical amount of money. But they have a concept. They have a rhythm. They talk about that the reason why we win championships is because we're in rhythm. And so when the rhythms are off, this is not a moment of crisis. This is an invitation to realign. So, and this invitation that I'm giving to you is called the Great Reset of the Mind. This is not motivational hype. It's not positive thinking. This is neurological, spiritual, and behavioral realignment that's now proven to 1, accelerate career, 2, strengthen teams, and 3, restore mental wellness. So let me give you the landscape here so you get this down. Right now, we've got record high burnout globally by the World Health Organization. Not an organization I quote very much, but nonetheless, some of their studies are great. I got all their studies here, which is just groundbreaking. Companies right now are shifting budgets from engagement programs to human performance and wellness intelligence. We know this because we're in 150 different spaces alongside the leadership of well over 2 trillion now in revenue. So I'm talking to people that are at the top and they're looking down. So it doesn't matter whatever level that you are. And this doesn't mean I'm expensive to work with, by the way. Tim will tell you we have budgets for everybody because my heart is really in helping people accelerate. This happens very, very fast. Harvard Business Review calls this psychological sustainability. It's the number 1 leadership thing going into 2026. Even Gartner here said cognitive load has replaced workload as the primary threat to employee performance, Tim. Think
Not
about that,
surprised at all.
right?
Yeah.
Your brain is the
assigning
bottleneck.
15 jobs
go
to
ahead, yeah.
what used to be 15 jobs, we're now assigning to one, giving you a
Yeah.
couple of AI bots and say, here, you can do the job of 50 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm teaching a lot on AI too. Get my prior event on AI is not going to replace you. What our job right now is to work on mental wellness and to reset this great rhythm of the mind to where you are not outbeat. That concept alone, thinking that I will not be outbeat, the brain goes into an overdrive mechanism where it decreases cognitive load and you begin to think quicker, more responsive, and have a competitive edge to AI. Remember, AI was created by DI, divine intelligence, right? We're talking from a top-down approach, and I don't think just linearly. I think horizontally. I've seen way too many miracles. I've seen way too many testimonials. You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, just right about 25, 26 years. And it's the same attack. It is the same struggle. And because of now AI, we have an edge to overcome this even quicker. So think about it. Your brain's the bottleneck, not your time, not your skills, your cognitive wellness. And this is why this conversation matters, and this is why you're here. So when I say cognitive wellness, what I'm saying is clarity of thought, the stability of your emotions. I raise both hands. Tim laughs at me when I do this because I want you to know that I'm not untouchable. I want you to know that I have suffered from every major neurological deficiency you can have. I was a full-blown addict, and I didn't tell anybody. I have had trouble in my marriage. I have had trouble raising my kids. I have had trouble making money. Any coach that tries to come and paint this picture of this perfect world, hit the off button because you can't relate, right? We're real world people. So, but the difference is I did something about it. I hired coaches, I hired therapists, and I put in the work. And when you invest in yourself, it's a very powerful principle because I want you to understand what cognitive wellness is. When you invest in yourself versus investing in the stock market or Bitcoin, do all those things, but save some precious seed for yourself. Something magical happens to where you begin developing a belief system of value. Like you send a message to yourself, I'm valuable. Guess how employers relate to that? They say they can feel it because it is a actual molecular and a biological frequency that omits your rhythm. Let me give you an example of this before I go on. Tim, yesterday I was on the phone with a new client. She's in finance, young girl in her 30s, and she goes, I've never invested in myself like this. She goes, but you have brought me to the place now where I have the internal confidence based on cognitive wellness. This is not motivational fluff. And she said, I'm going for the promotion. So under the interview, she literally told them, I hired a private coach and I decided to invest in me. That conversation, that word sequence alone, she said it was the only time that they were blown away. They're like, you did what? Was that intercompany? Did the company pay for that? She goes, no, I did. And they probed and asked more of that. Why? Because the number one topic on LinkedIn right now and amongst circles is wellness, but people aren't talking about it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I mean cognitive wellness, I'm talking about the rhythm of your internal world. When you think about currency, increasing currency or investing in yourself, currency comes from the word current. And so like when a recession hits, we pull back, we stop the current, we stop the flow of money producing. So everybody suffers, right? The way your mind performs under stress and opportunity is cognitive wellness. And a currency keeps you on your A game. Most people don't need more motivation, Tim, as we know. They need regulation.
Yes.
I didn't need someone to get on the phone and say you can do it. Right? So
I wanted to help with some individuals, because if you're not used to thinking of your work environment with regards to a rhythm and a currency and a current, I'm going to ask it this way. When I'm in a room with other colleagues and ideas are just, we literally use the word flowing. Ideas are flowing as we're brainstorming and creating. And then someone comes up, stands up in a very negative tone and says, "This is stupid. This is dumb." And you literally feel everything, all the energy gets killed in the room. Is that the type of stuff you're talking about when you're talking about the flow and the energy and how it goes and stops and stuff like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, disruptive. Emotional disruption is something that happens to us every day. It happens on the road, it happens every way. But the wellness, the emotionally regulated individual is not moved by that. They it's almost like military people, right? How do they have so much self-restraint? Most people aren't failing from a lack of effort, because we all do have a certain degree of temperance. Outside interferences are going to change everything from biological, mental, emotional structures, but it's learning and getting the coaching and how do you process that? We're overwhelmed because our internal systems are overloaded. So this is what I'm calling the new workplace currency. People who can think clearly under pressure now outperform the rest. And with AI here, it is completely non-emotional. Think about it, Tim.
Yeah.
It doesn't have emotion, yet it's spitting out the greatest amount of information, and companies are banking off it. So they're looking for emotional regulation. So let me give you something fascinating here. Here's the heart brain science behind it. Research from the University of North Texas and the Heart Math, who I'm a part of now, discovered that the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart.
Yeah.
The heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. So in a stress state, like what you're talking about in those environments, cortisol spikes, creativity shuts down, work memory drops, and decision accuracy falls by 48%.
Wow.
If you think about it, just think about an argument that you get into your wife when she corners you or he corners you, and you're like, well, you try to justify. Decision accuracy fell 48%, completely unprepared.
Yeah.
But in coherent rhythm, steady breathing, emotional alignment, mental quietness, the brain becomes stable. Cortisol drops about 23%. Resilience increases, clarity improves, emotional regulation strengthens, collaboration rises. Stanford found, Tim, that leaders who maintain emotional regulation are promoted 39% faster. Back down to the Chat GPT or Grok or whatever you're using, how it's very emotionally regulated. So there's a lot we can learn from AI about. My response are not emotional, although I am an impassioned person, because we're not negating passion and talent and charisma. I mean, I have enough of that for both the room. That's why I love you, is because you're the yin to the yang in that, right? I'm the passionate, you're the conservative, charismatic. You got charismatic in your bones. I see it come out.
It comes out once in a while.
But you know, this what makes us a great team is that if I have everybody around me who's just impassioned as I am, we'd get no work done, because I'm a very ethereal, visionary, standard now. But over the years, and especially working with AI, I have become more logical, non-emotional, emotionally regulation. It's not only helped my career advance us well into 9-figure revenues. We have companies right now that are evaluated at 9 figures. This didn't happen when I was in my 20s. Some of us happened to, but not me. I was a late bloomer. It also helped me with my children, being a more present father, a very coherent father. Because don't miss that word. Coherence is, think about the opposite of it. An incoherent person is not there. So becoming a more coherent husband, coworker, friend, leader, brother, sister, you know, it's just an overall 2026 powerful game changer for accelerating your growth, for accelerating your great reset of the mind. That's why I'm saying cognitive wellness is currency. Anybody who's thinking linear probably doesn't like listening to me. I'm a very horizontal thinker as well because I operate multi-platformically. And I think this is why my coaching programs are so successful, is because I coach beginner, intermediate, advanced all the same time. I learned it at the NFL as a strength and conditioning coach, that if you're working with a beginner and then you have to move to someone who's advanced, or if I have a group exercise class, I have to be able to adapt to the whole crowd and speak to everyone's fitness level. So when you get on these coaching sessions, this is why it's so beneficial, as I'm speaking to the CEO, I'm speaking to the janitor. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. A human being deserves the same amount of literature, cutting edge breakthrough, because whether you're the janitor or the CEO, we all need wellness.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
So Harvard found too that teams under emotionally regulated leadership, you leaders that are emotionally regulated because you have tapped a coherent level in yourself, they perform 45 to 50% better.
Wow.
That's why we're just moving into coaching leaders, because the top-down approach, much like you just said about the example of the coworker in the workplace, excuse me, is she or he is emotionally dysregulated. That's why you are. That's why the whole team is. I'll never forget, years ago, I was coaching this company who had just acquired 40 million in funding, and then they had dropped the 20 million. I always talk about this one, 20 million in 30 seconds in my best-selling book. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was 50% of their funding. So,
Wow.
so I said, I need to interview every executive in this company. And there was about 45 of them. And I said, I want you to write down on a piece of paper the top 3 things that you would change immediately about this company and its culture, but don't put your name on there. It was a very safe, psychologically safe exercise to do. So I collected them in a bag, and then I dumped the bag over with the CEO and his 2 advisors, and he had all of these crumpled up pieces of paper, right? And as they're opening them one, I said, I want you to put them in piles of congruency. The stack pile, emotionally dysregulated CEO.
Yeah.
Ron, please, Coach Ron, tell him to stop cussing in the hallway. Stop speaking down to me. I know I'm head of sales, but I ain't nobody's puppet. Emotionally irregulated leaders create disruption in the cognitive, physiological, emotional, spiritual, every element in the culture of the climate of the culture. Any way you say it is right, in that we have to be involved for people who are looking at mass acceleration. You're looking at cognitive clarity. You're looking at promotion. You want to go to the 6, 7, 8-figure level, emotional stability.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question here, Coach, because when you're looking at emotional regulation, when someone is not taking the time to understand basically their internal wellness, is it also because they're afraid of, one, what they're going to uncover?
Yeah.
2, they're afraid that they really don't know their identity. Their identity is not them as a person, but it's the occupation, the glamour, the perception of success. The irregulability, is that a sign that there's true foundational issues with the identity?
That's a very, very loaded question, Tim, which we should probably do a separate teaching on identity, but what you're tapping there is the heart. And it's very common to get wrapped up in titles and having your 6-figure, 7-figure salary determine your identity. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Long before neuroscience discovered coherence, scripture revealed it. Proverbs 4:23 is something I quote all the time. Very powerful. You don't need to be religious. You need to be wise by listening to this. Guard your heart, for it determines the course of your life. So it's not a position thing that's creating emotional regularity. It could be a trauma thing. Could be childhood trauma. Could be workplace trauma. Could be church trauma.
Yeah.
I deal with people that deal with... Huh?
That's a big one there.
I suffered from pastoral abuse.
Oh.
I don't ever speak ill of anybody. I never will. But some of the leadership, again, Whether you're in a church or a corporation, these are organizations that have the power of epigenetics, epi beyond genetics. Something is changing your genetics. I want to
Yes.
keep preaching this until you turn blue. Genetics are changed by two things: programming and environment. Programming and environment. So if you're in a corrupt spiritual atmosphere that's using condemnation, religiosity, your brain is trying to identify to a new identity, and they're creating all this religious BS that's making you try to work your way into good behavior. Ain't going to happen. That's not what the message of grace is about. Grace is about a learning curve to say, I'm not perfect. I'm still developing. I've got Endel issues, and who of us doesn't? Don't put yourself in a box that you're the only one. All of us have traumas, micro traumas. I deal with 9/11 victims still today. That was a major trauma. I mean, being on ground zero and going through that, we're 20 years later plus. The traumas are very real. Your heart is not just spiritual, it is neurological. It is neurological. So when we talk about this modern neuroscience, language, your spirit stabilizes your system. This is where prayer comes in, meditation. And what I'm proposing here is that you're learning through teaching, through coaching, through these Zooms, through these teachings, heart regulation. The heart sets the rhythm, and the rhythm sets the outcome. Your heart is sending more signals to the brain than the brain is to the body, but you haven't even guarded it yet. So when the employee comes to you, or when that disgruntled person comes to you, a person with a guarded heart is literally doing this when they're approached. They're everywhere they go, there is a literal guard over it. In other words, you're not going to get the best of me. This is a consciousness. This is a learned behavior, and it requires training, just like the bicep does, or the legs do, or cardiac development does. I mean, it's no different. And I think what we're doing here, and I get so impassioned talking about this, is like the smallest investment in brain development equals the greatest amount of currency.
Yes.
It's just unbelievable. So let me wrap up with why people are breaking down and make it compassionate. You're not breaking down because you're weak. Let's just write the word weakness down right now. And moving into 2026, you are not going to use that 70s term ever again. It is a 1970s term. It is not a modern day term. I want you to replace it with the term liability. Because any pro athlete I work with, any CEO, he has legitimate liabilities. And the way the mindset is of this level of currency that's around them is that I don't assume myself to be weak. It's a different neural pathway in the brain. Weakness, suppressed, delayed, regressed. I'm not good enough. I'll never be that. That's what that circulates. Liability is another neural pathway, and it says, I will overcome. I've got to develop this. I'm enrolling in rehab, right? Rehab development physically. I'm engaging in I am going to invest in myself for the first time. I talked to a guy doing 40 million a year, never invested one thing into himself. Boom, 40 years later, there's emotional abuse in the marriage. Now the wife is suffering from a cancer. Consequences, ladies and gentlemen, are the outcome of ignorance. And so what I'm proposing here is people are breaking down because the load has exceeded their system's capacity. Most professionals are living with unregulated thoughts, emotional overwhelm, chronic worry, intrusive thoughts. I'm dealing right now with my son, intrusive thoughts, teenager, high spiritual dopamine level, low prefrontal cortex activation. Do you think I sat around? I brought him to Amen Clinics, the guy that endorsed my first book. I invested in him. I said, no more. And now going through this, thank God I've done heart coherence, because you talk about emotional regulation. My God, Tim, am I being tested? I don't have loss of clarity, and I'm not operating in fear-driven decision-making. This isn't a character issue. It's a capacity issue. Our system wasn't designed to hold everything you're carrying. Release it. The worst thing you can do is carry the traumas, the mistakes, the shame, and the guilt you've dealt with. And to your point, it's an identity crisis. We're in an identity crisis. It will shift it. So What cognitive wellness does in real life, when your cognitive wellness increases, which starts today, you're going to start thinking clearer. You're going to communicate better. You're going to realign emotional authority. You're going to stop spiraling into cycle fears, like I was doing. You're going to reduce anxiety and mental fatigue. You can expect with this type of teaching and coaching, you're going to become more promotable. We just saw the stat. Carnegie Mellon found that mentally regulated individuals experience 30% fewer negative work days, and people want to promote you. Your team trusts you more. They can feel it. Remember, it's a frequency. It's a current. Before you get the currency, you got to get the right current.
Yes.
And your productivity will stabilize, Tim.
Yes.
NYU found rhythmic breathing reduces anxiety 44% in under 5 minutes.
Wow.
I do it for 2 minutes. I'm coaching people how to become better keynote speakers. You want to do a TEDx, you want to present in front of your company, you want to do a Toastmasters, 30 seconds. My book is not an exaggeration. Rhythmic breathing by 10%, 20%. This isn't wellness. This is performance. Oh, we got a little feedback noise there. So the great reset of the mind, what is the great reset? It's the moment you stop surviving your mind and start leading it. You got feedback again. We got this new system, so I want to make sure we're good. It's when you shift from reaction to regulation, Tim. It's when you shift from overload to alignment. And then what I love to say is I've moved from chaos to coherence.
Yeah.
This is where a leadership authority is born. This is where emotional strength returns. And this is where decisions become sharp again. It's where burnout ends. It's where promotion begins. In short, the great reset is when your internal world begins to match the future you want, not the stress you've been carrying. And I don't know about you, but I'm done with it. And here's the truth. You cannot reset what you cannot see.
Yeah.
You can't reset what you can't see. Most people are frighteningly blind. I mean, I'm like, don't you know your behavior patterns? Do you know your cognitive strengths? Do you know your pressure responses? Do you know your blind spots? How about your emotional rhythm profile? That's why we built Higher Performance Brain and Wellness Assessment, because it measures the cognitive clarity, emotional regulation, decision-making, stress signatures.
Yes.
Yesterday, I was on a phone with the leader. He says, wow, I've never seen my leadership rhythms. I've never seen my behavioral blind spots. I've never seen my team's culture influence pattern. No wonder that the culture is declining. We've got a disgruntled employee over there. It gives you a complete map of your mind, your team's mind, and you have something to transform, not guess. So I want to leave you with this. If you want to step into 26 with clarity instead of confusion, you want strategy instead of stress, and you want alignment instead of anxiety, send me a DM with the word reset. We'll send you a link for a 15-minute executive wellness consultation completely free. It'll be with me or Tim, and we'll give you access to the assessment that these leaders across 150 industries are using. It'll remove your mental fog, regulate emotional overload, strengthen promotion, strengthen or accelerate your promotion, stabilize culture, and build the psychological sustainability required for this next decade. Your mind is the great asset, and it's time to invest in it. The future doesn't belong to the busiest. It belongs to the clearest. The future does not belong to the overwhelmed, Tim. It belongs to the regulated. And this is the great reset of the mind. It starts with understanding how your mind actually works. So DM reset, and let's begin this next chapter together. Tim, any final questions, thoughts?
That's just amazing. I loved everything you said there. And what's
Thank you.
one action that someone can take to start observing better their own emotional regulation and where they're at?
3 words. Read my book. Until next week, we're going to regroup. and we'll dive in a little bit deeper, and I'll go into that question a little bit more. But get a copy of my book, grab it on Amazon, or if you end up getting one of the wellness assessments, we'll just give it to you for free. Autographed copy, send it your way, and you'll call at the end of 26 and say, my life has been pioneered in a new level of human performance I would have never ever imagined. The testimonials speak for themselves. I'm Coach Ron. This is where we rewire, refire to go higher. Tim Boyko, thank you, sir. We'll see you next week.